Welcome to the Construction Disruption Podcast, where we uncover the future of design, building, and remodeling.
I'm Todd Miller of Isaiah Industries, manufacturers specialty metal roofing and other building materials. Today, my co-host here on the Construction Disruption Show is Ryan Bell. Hi, Ryan. How is today going?
Hi, Todd. So far, so good. How are you?
Going well, doing okay. I need to come up with a more exciting intro, something to ask you, but I do have a knock-knock joke for you.
Okay, let's hear it.
Okay, well, of course, this is audience part. You have to participate to some degree.
Okay.
Here we go. Ryan, knock, knock.
Who's there?
Hike.
Hike who?
In autumn's cool breeze, laughter knocks upon your door. Smile, chase tears away.
That was good.
Haiku.
Yeah,
Okay.
I got it. Yeah. As soon as I said it, I knew where you were going with it.
Okay, shall we get this show on the road?
Let's do it. Yes.
So today our spotlighted guest is Jesse Hernandez, based in San Antonio, Texas. Jesse is no stranger to the construction field, having spent his entire career in this industry. Jesse is now the owner of DepthBuilder and DepthBuilder.com. Through his company, Jesse is a strong advocate for the construction industry and in particular for good leadership and good communication. He works with construction professionals of all types, helping them to increase their influence, by improving their communication styles and the way they solve problems. A published author, public speaker, podcaster, and consultant, Jesse is determined to elevate our industry through improved leadership and communication. Jesse, welcome to Construction Disruption.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. And thank you for that joke. I was like, oh, that was pretty witty there, the haiku.
Well, sometimes we try to add a little levity. And just to let our audience know, and Jesse is in on this as well, we have each been given a challenge word to work into our conversation here today. So you, our audience, can listen for words that we might say that may seem a little peculiar to you. And perhaps that was the challenge word that one of us had. And at the end of the show, we will say whether we've said our challenge words or not. So, Jesse, one of the things that I know that you really believe in, and I'm right there with you, and I know Ryan is as well, is the power of story. And we all have stories that can bolster and encourage and build into others in order to make the world better. This is a big open-ended question I'm about to ask you, but can you tell us a little bit, about your early years, how you came to be in the construction industry? And, perhaps go ahead and share a story of something in your life that has really helped shape these passions that you have today.
Oh, my goodness. Yes. Thank you for that, Todd. So I'm going to keep it concise. I'm only going to go back to the 1900s when I right, because you can say that and it's true now.
You can.
Graduated high school 1995. My dad's a plumber. And so I'm a second generation plumber, except that I don't do plumbing anymore. Anyhow, graduated high school, got a summer job to save up some cash to pay for room and board at a junior college here in Texas. And I walked on the job site. It was a commercial renovation of a high school here in town. And the environment was like Disneyland for me. And when I think back on it, the reason it was so welcoming is because my energy in the classroom only got me in trouble. And right, and the reaction I would get from my teachers and classmates and so forth made me feel less than, because I needed to behave a certain way that I did. It took everything I had to do it. Like, for me to be quiet takes way more energy than it does for me to go at the speed I like to go. It just drains. Anyhow, I was on a college track, but again, worked on that job site. I said, oh my goodness, this is what I want to do. The physicality, the problem solving, the camaraderie, the sensory input, like just problem solving, like everything was it was the conditions that are perfect for people like me to thrive and grow. But I didn't know that back then, right? I just saw fun and excitement and adventure. So started working, got an apprenticeship because I didn't want to be a helper for the rest of my life. I asked one of the foremen I was working with, he said, well, you need to get in an apprenticeship program if you want to really like advance your career. So I did, got my license. So started there as an apprentice and then ended up getting the leadership position, promoted to foreman. I say promoted because most people would understand that, but it was more like punished to foreman because I was always complaining and irritated about the way people were running things and the way they were treating people. So they said, okay, you want to cry? You go do it.
You think you could do better? Have at it. I love that.
And so like that little thing of me not being able to be content with like funky stuff that's not fun and more difficult than it has to be is probably the root of what guided the rest of my career. So within that organization, I was on the plumbing side of the business for just over 20 years, installer, foreman, superintendent, general superintendent. At one point, I was responsible for training and development, transitional training from installer to foreman, foreman to superintendent. I was responsible for recruiting, put together an internship program, trade-based internship program for high school students, 16 to 18, to come out in the field and get a feel for, because we did plumbing, piping, and sheet metal. And so when they'd come with us over the summer, they would spend 4 to 6 weeks with the plumbers, 4 to 6 weeks with the pipe fitter welders, and 4 to 6 weeks with the sheet metal crew. And at the end of the summer, some of them would say, I ain't doing this no more. It's waking up at 7's hard. And some would say, man, I really like the sheet metal stuff. Cool. Come back next summer. And then we'll get you an apprenticeship, et cetera. That I found a passion for, and maybe more importantly, an aptitude for developing people. And the root of that was one of my bosses, Jim Jones. He's passed away. And I say boss, he was my boss, but he was also a mentor, somebody I looked up to then and still look up to. One day he sat me down and told me, he's like, Jesse, you're pretty good at getting jobs done. You're pretty good at making money. But people quit around you. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Like they're soft. You need to hire tougher people. And he says, well, here's the thing. You have tons of potential. And if you want to grow your influence with the organization, you have to accomplish 2 things. 1, you're already doing financial results. 2 is develop people. And you're horrible at that. I'm like, what? Like, wait a minute. Like, all of a sudden, there's these new rules I got to play by. That, because as an installer, you get rewarded for how much you do, how much you independently install. And so now I got to develop people. Upside is I was working for TD Industries at the time. They had a phenomenal program to help me develop those leadership skills, people skills, et cetera. And so I went in that direction, and all of a sudden that unlocked the whole new horizon for me, because when I started developing a knack for being a people-focused leader, 1, people liked me more. People didn't like me before. And 2, people stuck with me for an extended period of time so that I can continue honing my skills, but also contributing to the development of their capabilities. That grew into it kept expanding from developing my team to developing the business unit to getting the public speak in industry organizations, which then I got recruited to do a job, serve as a regional asset for the Central United States, leading change and supporting people through whatever that looks like. Had an amazing team that was way more credentialed, way more talented than me. And so it was my privilege to serve and support them, which then led to a national role with the big national brand, national responsibilities. I did that for a little while, super amazing. And then I started my business just over 2 years ago, because along the way, each of those jumps, when I was an apprentice, I always thought the people in the office, they're fancier, smarter, more intelligent, and have all the right answers. And that's why I'm not there, because I don't have them. Well, as I moved up the ranks in the trade side of the business, I discovered these people up here are human too. And then I went to work for a general contractor, which again, in my head, they are the titans of industry. So they know everything. They're more educated. They manage bigger backlog, et cetera. And guess what? They're also human too. And so it was kind of like, man, we're all just trying to figure this out. And one of the key gaps that we have is this communication thing, specifically the listening part, the communicating to establish and cultivate connection was totally absent at every level. And I knew it because I couldn't do it at first, but I worked on it. And that's kind of lit my flame. And that's where I come from most of the time now.
Wow, very interesting. So, as you started your own company, well, first of all, let me ask, tell us a little bit about how you arrived at the name DepthBuilder. How did that end up being what you called your business?
That's a funny. I wish it was like some really deep, intentional story, Todd, but it's not. I was I was still working full time. I knew I was going to be launching my business, and so I knew what I wanted to do. I didn't know what to call it. And I had a bunch of I was like, whatever. And I was workshopping. I hired a coach. If anybody's out there, you need a coach. Like if you're trying something new, get a coach. Just do that, or get a peer that can help you kick ideas around. But I had a coach, and she and I were going through some stuff. She had helped me, super talented woman, Miss Kim White. She helped me write a couple of books. And so as we're talking, she's like, Jesse, you're giving me all these names. And they sound like, fancy names, right? Like keyword rich business name type thinking, but they were soulless. And she's like, Jess, I've been involved with you for over a year now. Everything that you put out is pretty deep in that it's not surface level. It's not the wrapper. It's like the dirty details of what really being a person on the world is. And I was like, wow, thank you. She's like, you have a lot of depth. And I said, well, when I work with people, that's what I want to do. Because I know for me, the most fulfilling experience is to work with a person one-on-one or small teams for an extended period of time, because I can see the shift in the way they think and function with that really rich connection, which is a matter of depth, right? We're not talking about how to read budgets. We're talking about how does it feel to have to present a budget that you're showing a 20% overage on labor that's not going to improve. What does that feel like? And how do you have that conversation? Anyways. And so I said, well, what about DepthBuilder? And she's like, yes, done. So that was it. That's how we came up with the name.
Well, I love it. It's a great name. Well, tell us a little bit about what you do, how you work with your clients, things you can help them with. What do you provide to your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. The one of the easiest ways to frame it is I help people expand their influence, right? Because I believe, and you guys probably know, you got a podcast. There's tremendous value in expanding our influence, and there's a lot of ways to expand our influence. Right, I can market the hell out of myself and do TikTok dances and stuff, and I'll get attention and more people will know my name. But that's kind of fleeting, right? It'll run out. But when I connect with somebody and contribute into somebody else's life or into their career, I have real influence now. There is an appreciation and a connection that won't be broken unless I violate some trust or something in that manner, kind of like being up on the wall, falling off, getting busted up. When you break trust, it's like Humpty Dumpty falling off the wall. It's very difficult to put it all back together, right? So what I do is I help these leaders understand how they're communicating, and through the venue of problem solving, which again, fancy words, but it's really more about what we typically shifting their thinking from don't bring me any problems, bring me your solution. That's a standard way of thinking, which kind of works. But I believe that builds dependency within our team, because I'm not engaging, I'm not listening, I'm not receiving, I'm not supporting or contributing. So it's more a shift from that type of just tell me what, or let me just tell you what to do. It's more a shift in thinking, let's understand the problem better. What's going on here? What are the contributing factors? And going to the people that are closest to the problem to understand the problem from their perspective as well. And so it's sort of a collaborative social approach to solving business problems, such that when we actually press the button to make things better or make the change, everybody that's affected with the issue is aware of what's going to happen and is behind it. So that when you deploy the solution, it sticks, which is very different than sending out an email, effective immediately, thou shalt. You ever receive or send any of those emails?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
All of that stuff that I kind of described in a very muddy fashion happens as a result of a lot of touches, a lot of investigation, a lot of behavioral change, and a lot of awakenings in terms of self-awareness as we go through evaluating the business problems and solving them in a different manner. So high level, big complex stuff, that's what I do. Super simple, personal is introduce people, help them become aware of their habit, their solutionizing habits. Help them stop solution shanking people. And I'm sure both of you know exactly what I mean when you hear the word solution shank.
Yes.
Right? Like,
absolutely.
And so what happens when we solution shank, right? Somebody comes to me with their problem. I don't even let them finish. I tell them, this is what you should do.
Right.
And I do that over and over and over. And then what ends up happening, I start getting really irritated because my team can't make a damn decision. And I start believing everybody around me doesn't have or take initiative. When the fact is, I created that situation because all I do is give them answers all the time. I've disconnected them from their agency because I don't even let them finish describing the situation. And so another exercise, like a big thing that I'm really working hard on, is introducing people to a methodology that helps them become aware of how horrible we listen, how horrible we are at giving and receiving feedback, and how just super, super, I would say scrub level, we are at staying focused on the task at hand. And so an example, have you ever been in a situation where you're messing around with your Excel spreadsheet and you're struggling with it, and somebody comes behind you and says, why are you doing it like that? You should do this, press Control Tab, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, dude, I'm good. And then another person flies in and says, no, don't do that. You should do this. Why aren't you using Google Docs? And you just want to turn your computer off so they can go away. Sound familiar?
Yes, absolutely.
Right. So you have a situation, you didn't need help. Somebody that should be working on another task goes and violates your space to shower you with their wisdom. So now you got two clowns working on a problem that only one can fix because only one person fits on the keyboard. And then the third person comes and starts mixing it up. We do that instinctually, believing that we're helping, but nobody is getting helped. And even worse, we're compounding the loss in terms of time and dollars if you're at work by this behavior, but we're not even aware of it. So anyways, that's one of the funnest things I get to do is help people understand those dynamics and how they play out all day, every day. And more importantly, that we're all guilty of it, because it's easy to say, oh, yeah, I know who does that. Yeah, but guess what? So do you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I'm curious as you spoke there, and I do not mean this in any way, shape, or form as a sexist question, but as you work with men and women leaders, do you notice any difference in their natural approaches to problem solving? I oftentimes feel like I do, and I'm curious how that impacts you as a coach.
Oh, that is a phenomenal question. So I'm going to say I've seen what would typically be bucketized as a male approach and a female approach, but I've seen it concurrent. So, for example, it took me a while, but now I take a very social, rather I'll say it this way. My focus is 100% on making things better for the men and women that are doing the work. So I have a social approach to everything. I am focused on the human beings. Yes, the processes and systems are important, and that's what we're going to work on with the intent of making things better for people. And so I've had many really great conversations with leaders. They're like, man, you take a very soft approach, which they're saying in a very nice way, a feminine approach. Whereas a masculine approach is like, just fix the damn thing. Just go do something, right? We got to take action. Why are we sitting here talking? Why do we got to talk to everybody? Just tell them what to do. Sure. So now I've seen that approach, we'll say the masculine approach, in both men and women in executive levels and up. And I think it's because, especially in construction, because of the way the boys play the game, women are conditioned to be extremely assertive and extremely aggressive. So they adopt that behavior. Now, that being said, I've also been able to observe and study some phenomenal leaders that are women who naturally, like their instinct, their default mode was to take a communal approach. How are we going to look at this? It's always a we focus. And what resources do I need to provide you or provide the team so that we can overcome that deal? And so I guess that's kind of a really muddy way to say, a broken egg way to say yes, that I do see a difference. And what I'm really, really focused on is helping everybody, whatever gender, is to come over and take a more human, people, communal approach to problem solving and building the business.
Very interesting. Well, I'm kind of curious. Most of us in our lives and in business have experienced both, what I call those mountaintop experiences. Hey, everything's great, top of the mountain, and those valley experience. I'm kind of curious, what is the mindset or position of most of your clients when they come to you? Do you often find they're in the valley and struggling and grasping, or are they on the mountaintop saying, hey, I want to stay here?
Oh, man, that's a tough question, Todd. Jeez. Okay, so I'll say it this way. What's really interesting is when people reach out, they almost always believe they're in the valley and they believe they're at absolute rock bottom, which I think is important. It's not like a requirement for me, but I think it's important because that's an indicator of humility, right? An indication of we have things to improve on. And so when I start learning, okay, help me understand what's going on and almost every time them leaders are like, I'm a little embarrassed that we're probably going to be the worst client you've ever had. We probably the most dysfunction. And when we go through it, I'm like, yeah, no, you're not. Like, not at all. This is pretty standard. And so I have one group of amazing leaders, but because they haven't been able to see what I've been able to see through my career, right? Working with as a trade contractor, I got exposed to, we'll just say, hundreds of leadership styles from the GC, superintendent, project managers on the project. Not all of them, well, very, very, actually, only 3 of them were phenomenal. The rest were the same, which is bad. When I went to work for serving that regional role, I got to see hundreds of leaders from within the general contractor and other trade organizations. And I got to see the gambit, right? Like the spectrum expanded in terms of what bad was and what great was. And so they are not, because those folks are within that group and they've been there for a long period of time, they're kind of blind to how amazing or how weak they are. This one group, phenomenal leadership behavior. Like, top, best in class leadership behavior that is just naturally inherent in the way they function and the way they make decisions. And they think they're horrible. Like, you have no idea. Y'all are the dang best. Now, I will say, so in my head, I'm looking at them like, you guys are here and you're going to go further, right? There's always room for improvement, or you're going to stay at the top of the mountain. There are some people, teams or leaders that are closer to the valley and they recognize it. And there's some core fundamental stuff that they got to work on before anything I do is going to be of any benefit to them. And I have that conversation like, look, I could do stuff and I'm going to have fun and your people are going to have fun, but it's not going to stick because you have some core fundamental ownership stuff that you need to resolve within your team. But I wouldn't say those people are in the valley, right? Because they're aware and they're seeking resources.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
The ones that are in the valley never know it because they think they have it figured out. And they think, and when I say the ones specifically, the leaders that are in the valley are the leaders that don't have a problem and the leaders that know the answer to everything already. They're clueless as to how horrible a situation they have and the suffering that their people are experiencing.
Very interesting. And, I like what you're saying. You got to have that humility and that introspection to really be able to know where you are and see where you are. Well, can you share with us a story or two, maybe of a client that you really helped them to new levels of success and leadership? Maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. So I got two, and one, I was still working full time, but it was the awakening moment for me to say, "Oh, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm accidentally great at, and what I want to do." So I was working. The guy, he was the significant responsibility in the finance department for the state of Texas, and I was coaching him through some problem solving. And we're going to, if you're familiar with the A3 methodology, that's the framework that I use, but it's super Jessified, right? It's the way I do it. And so we're working through his problem. The problem he was trying to solve was outside of his department, totally outside of his circle of influence, but it caught his attention. It was really important to him. So as we're going through it, he wants to this is what we need to do. I'm like, why? How? Why? How? He's like, well, because X, Y, and Z. It's like, okay, are those factual? These things that you're saying are the contributing factors. How do you validate that? He's like, what do you mean? I was like, where's the data? Shit. So he's okay, let me go find some data. I was like, yeah, exactly. Go find out. So he goes and he gets some more data. He comes back. He's like, man, that's not the right thing. This is really what's happening. Awesome. Where'd you learn that from? Well, from the guys and from the crew and from okay. Well, this is what I think we need to do. It's like, okay, how do you know it's going to work? Well, what do you mean? It's like, how do you know the people are even going to adopt your idea? He says, man, should I ask him? I say, hell yeah, that sounds like a really good idea. So he went and presented the ideas to the crew, the people he was studying. And he came back and he's like, man, my ideas were garbage. They gave me some really phenomenal ideas. So we're going to do those. And a couple of them we're going to put on the back burner, maybe phase 2, phase 3 them, because we're not ready for them. And I'm like, awesome. And in that experience, he calls me up one day. He's like, Jess, I've been doing this wrong my whole career. I said, huh? He's like, man, I feel like I've ruined people's careers by telling them what to do all the time and driving them down a path that I thought was the best path. And I set them up for a lot of friction and failure. What I should have been teaching them was this: how to listen more, how to ask questions, how to go and engage with people so that you can build the community to just solve problems all the time. And he was really beating himself up. From that point, he changed the way he leads and function, and his career expanded. And here's the key point: it expanded in the direction that he wanted it to. He now became fully aware of how he wanted to serve others and crafted this third half of the leg of his career, to do what he gets fulfillment, passion, and energy from. Whereas he was down this other track, which was a pretty fancy, sexy track, but he hated it. And that came as a result of the work we did together, which, for clarity, this didn't happen in like a 30-minute sit down or 4 or 5 call. This was months and months of work and dialogue. That's one example. Another example is a dear friend of mine, amazing human being. I had a theory that because I've been exposed to so many leaders in the industry, there were a handful of people that really stood out to me. And they stood out to me because they had an intense people-centered approach to leadership. Like, almost to the point that they ignored financial performance, which is dangerous, right? Um, and I said, okay, these people are amazing. They're humble. They speak my language. They can affect people at a personal level. How can I amplify their influence? So I ran an experiment, which that experiment now is known as emotional bungee jumpers. I said, hey, I called those people up. I said, hey, man, I want to try this thing. Are y'all okay with it? Yeah, okay, cool. 6 of us. Supposed to be a one-day thing. Turned in, we did it for a year, once a month. And now it's turned into an online community. Anyways, one of those individuals, I mean, 3 of them, but I'm talking about one in specific, got extremely clear about what is it that I want to do with myself? What is it in the way that I treat or interact with people that is holding me back? And so she started making big decisions in her personal life and professional life, such that it became very clear to her business, like the officers within that organization, they're like, oh my goodness, we need to design a track to keep this awesome professional with us. And so they did. They went ahead and said, okay, this is what you want to do. We see you have the capabilities of doing it. You're already going out on the ledge and trying, being innovative and doing new things to help us improve our culture. So we're going to put you on that path. This is the timeline. And she's steadily working down that thing. And it came from the small awakenings that we had in working together and workshopping different stuff. Which for me, like, I'm just like, oh, we need her to get there already. But she's completely content. She's like, Jesse, you shut up. You go too fast. I'm fine with slow and steady. I'm like, okay, that's fine. So those are a couple of examples.
Well, great examples, and I love what you're doing because I think a lot of times folks get into leadership and they do fall into, what I call the leadership fallacy or leadership trap in terms of what they think leadership is. And a lot of times leadership really is, rather than just putting stuff out there and making it cut and dry, making things more chewy for your people, making them think and making them work and making them communicate and work together. Well, tell us a little about, you've written a couple of books. You want to give us a quick overview of those?
Yeah, sure. So the first book co-wrote with Jennifer Lacey, who she and I do No BS with Jen and Jess. We have a live stream every other Saturday at 8 a.m. Central. We co-authored that book. I think it's called Lean in Love, 5S Love Letters. And it's really contextualizing the 5S system. If anybody's heard of it: sort, set, shine, standardize, sustain. Contextualizing this system that's typically practiced in the professional space and applying it to personal relationships. and so I had some love letters that somebody wrote to me at the end of, like, as our relationship was wearing away, and that person contextualized them in this one. I was like, oh my God, these things are magic. I couldn't do it, but I knew it would be helpful for a lot of people. And so a few years go by, Jen and I connect. I say, hey, Jen, let's have a conversation around these things and how these ideas apply to work. We started doing some live streams. It caught wind. The transcripts of those live streams turned into the source material for that book. And it's kind of a different type of book, meaning it's not structured as most books are. So that one is out there. It's been out there for, I think, just over 2 years now. And then the second book is it's my book. It's got 20 stories of what I lived through. The title is Becoming the Promise You're Intended to Be. And it's ideally for anyone that is stuck in self-destructive behavior, substance abuse, addiction. This book is intended to help them see that even though they're there right now, they can make it out. With a little bit of resiliency, they can put Humpty Dumpty back together again and get out there and serve in the manner that they were best designed to serve. So those are the two books.
Wow, good thing. Are those available on Amazon, or what's the best way?
Amazon, yes.
Good deal. Well, tell me a little bit about what happens when you onboard a new client. What does that look like for them and for you? What do those early stages look like, just to give our listeners kind of a taste for it? And also, I'm kind of curious, do you work only with construction companies, or have you worked with other types of industries as well?
Oh, I love that. So I'll address the second question first. I haven't done any paid gigs with anybody outside of the construction industry, but I have helped and contributed to some nonprofit organizations, some local organizations, right? Like small teams, personal friends. I'll help in some sort of capacity. Um, Now, because the things that I work on are human things, I just have a wealth of knowledge in construction, or maybe not a wealth of knowledge. I've just been here long enough for people to think I have a wealth of knowledge in construction. Now, in terms of onboarding, that typically looks like somebody's got an issue, we'll call them legacy issues, those problems that just seem to never go away, or they want to have a shift in their culture, meaning specifically towards how do we get more people-centered? How do we do things such that our people have a higher quality experience while they're doing their job and existing within the organization? And it, I'm nosy. So I need to know, I really need to understand what are you experiencing? What are other people experiencing? We can get into data and metrics down the road, but up front, it's like, what does it feel like? What's kicking you in the face? How long has it been kicking you in the face? What are the politics like? Do we want to work with the most influential and responsible people within the organization? Or do you want to just go do some stuff out in the field? And that's a really important question, because what I've observed over and over and over again, the default is, let's go fix the field. Let's go fix the install team, which of course, right? Because that's where the dollar turns. However, that's not where the problems start. That's where the problems surface. The problems start all the way up the ladder. And so I need to get a feel for where that leader decision maker is in terms of where they want the focus to be. And I will 100% always advocate, even push to, when are we going to go work on the decision makers? When are we going to go work on them? Because whatever we do out here at the hands and eye level of the business is not going to stick if we don't start fixing some stuff that's further upstairs. And so that usually happens over a series of conversations. I always try to find a way to meet the team. And this is all before there's even a proposal put together, right? And like whatever that is, if I can fabricate a way to come in and facilitate a conversation, do a lunch and learn or whatever, so that I can meet their people. It's the most important thing for me. One, because I don't know about you guys, but I don't like working with jerks, right? Like that's not fun. If there's enough cool people and a few jerks, I could deal with that. But if everybody's a jerk, why would I put myself in that situation? And so being able to have some kind of group interaction with their leaders or with their team helps me get a feel for what I'm dealing with. Like, what's their open-mindedness? What kind of, what's the level of passive aggressive behavior? How direct are they? Like, I want to get a feel for that, because the more direct you are, the better, the more fun we're going to have and the faster we're going to progress. And what's also really important is I'm kind of wacky. I'm very relaxed. I have a lot of energy. You put me in front of more people, my energy goes up exponentially. And some people can't tolerate that. Some people, like the most common constructive criticism I've received throughout my career was that I lack executive presence. And I'm okay with that. Some people don't like my flavor, and it's important that they understand what that is. And so once we have those, we'll call it that first date, Then it's like, okay, let me put together a program or an idea of what I think could help your team. Let's review it, modify it to your needs. And then, okay, let's make a decision. Let's pull the trigger and get to work.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, it's apparent that you love what you do and you're very enthusiastic about it. Where does that come from? I mean, this desire to help others and help others be better. Any idea, what it is in you that really drives that?
100%. I want to be clear. Like it's easy to think that I'm just this altruistic, really nice person that cares and wants to help everybody.
Okay.
But the best way that I've come to understand it is I am a selfish servant, right? I am 100% about serving others because it keeps me sober. I've wrestled with addiction for at least 20, maybe 25 years.
Wow.
I've been sober now. In June will be 8 years. I'll be celebrating. Actually, when the book Becoming the Promise launched, it was on my 7th year birthday of sobriety when we launched the book. And so for me to serve others and contribute my gifts and talents into their path and their awakenings keeps me sober. So that's why I have so much energy, is because I've been blessed with gifts and talents that I can use to serve others. When I suppress those, life sucks. And it starts leading me down a dangerous path.
Yeah.
When I share them, it's awesome.
So for you, you're getting those dopamine hits now from helping others. And that's the positive thing that drives your life. I love that. And, I think that can be a missing part in recovery for a lot of folks is, okay, I've got this monkey I gotta get off my back and I'm fighting this demon. What do I replace that with? And, I've got some friends in recovery I work with, and absolutely the ones who have found something positive to replace that with are doing a whole lot better in their roads than others are. So very interesting. We've talked a little bit about addictions and recovery here on the show before, and we've had a few episodes because it's not uncommon in our industry. And so it's led to some great conversations. Well, I'm kind of curious, what advice would you have to young folks out there who may be considering a career in this great industry we share?
I've got two golden nuggets, both of which I did not practice. All right. One is listen, but fundamental, like more specifically, master the current way things are being done before you start sharing all your wisdom and ideas and apps and solutions and creative ideas. Master what's in place first, then present your idea. Because you have to establish a body of work in order to earn credibility. You can't just show up with great ideas, never having done what is already in place, period. The short way to say that is listen more than you talk.
Yeah, especially early on, for sure.
Right. So that's one thing. The other thing I would say, getting into the trade, is pick amazing people that demonstrate the behaviors you aspire to. Forget about the money. Yeah, money's important, but just spend less money. You won't need to make more money. That's pretty simple. But if you pick your leaders and find, like when you're in an interview, you're not the only one being interviewed. Interview that person. Find out who has the skill set, who has the behavior that you aspire to, and do whatever you can to be connected with those people, because that will shape your career trajectory. If you chase the money, it's a distraction to following a predetermined path that is not a bad thing. But if you want real fulfillment and real growth, follow the people you aspire to be, and that's going to take you on the path that's really going to provide you sustainable meaning in terms of fulfillment and contributing back out into the world.
Man, those are both great advice. And I've told this story on the show before, but I'm going to tell it again. I'll try to keep it real short. But my son, did go the college route, and he came out of college in 2000, right in the midst of the pandemic. And, so he's trying to find a job in the middle of that when there were no jobs, and you got experienced people vying for even entry-level jobs. And one of the things I finally told him was, I said, go out and find yourself a company and a leader you want to work for. Send a letter to that leader and see what happens. 4 years later, he's still working for that company. Absolutely loves it, loves what he does. And you're right. He's not chasing the money. He knows he could be doing a whole lot better financially, but instead he's got a gig that he enjoys and his lifestyle matches it. So it's all perfect. Great advice. Great advice.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Jesse. This has been a great get together. Really enjoyed learning from you. We're kind of close to wrapping up what we call the business end of things. Is there anything that you haven't shared yet with our audience that you'd like to squeeze in here? Oh, tell us a little bit about your podcast. We didn't talk about that.
Oh, yeah. No, thank you for that. So the podcast, it's called Learnings and Missteps. And I interview amazing, magical people to help understand the non-conventional path to success that they've traveled, so that other people can say, oh, it's not a straight line, because it ain't.
You are a wealth of wisdom. I cannot imagine how much your clients benefit just from having time to spend with you. It's awesome. So, well, we are pretty much at the end. We like to do something at the end of the show we call our rapid fire questions. Jesse is not prepared for this. This is 7 questions that we would ask, maybe serious, maybe silly. All I ask to do is give us your answer. Are you willing to participate in rapid fire, Jesse?
I am. Let's go.
Awesome. Well, we will alternate asking questions if that's cool, Ryan. I'll let you ask the first one.
I would love to. Question number 1. What is the most interesting place you have ever visited?
Jesse Land. That's the space between my ears.
Is that a big space?
A little dark.
A lot going on there.
Yeah.
A few crazy things in there. Well, I have a feeling. So question number 2, I have a feeling I know what you're going to answer. I'll ask it anyway. If you could have any job in the world, what would it be?
That the job, any job in the world that I could have would be escorting people down the path of self-discovery.
So it's kind of what you're doing.
Yeah, kind of. Don't tell anybody.
Which is what I thought your answer would be. Jesse Land. That's my job I want.
Question number 3. What's a fun fact about yourself that most people do not know?
Oh, so fun fact about me, in 7th grade, when Miss Evans' class, there was a chivalry contest because we were studying like medieval times. I won the chivalry contest, not just because I was carrying ladies' books and opening doors and pulling out chairs, because that's kind of how mom brought me up. But I did studies on like how did people back then, what was like the rituals the squires went through when they were up for knighthood. And so one of the things that they did was they'd go to the church and they'd pray and do these things. And they would, one I heard, bathed in a tub of milk. So the night before the voting was going to happen, I snuck out. I went to the church, lit some candles, did some prayer, which is something I never, like, nobody will believe that, but I did that. And I got home and I filled the tub up with water. And because I didn't want to get whooped by mom, I poured a little bit of milk in the tub. I didn't pour all the milk in the tub. And I still promise that's why I won that chivalry championship.
Wow. Well, it might be a little bit have to do with just who you are too, Jesse. I don't know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting. I think other schools do this too, but our local school system has a program called Guys in Ties and Girls in Pearls, where they try to teach some of those things. And I just think it's awesome.
That is awesome.
That's been lost. Okay. Fourth question, how long does it take you to get up and around and out of the house in the morning?
My general practice, it's probably within the first 60 minutes of the day that I'm out of the house. And I say within the first 60 minutes because sometimes when I wake up, it's like, okay, I gotta go get my mileage in and get running, get out the door. Sometimes I have an idea that the whispers gave me in the middle of my dream. So I need to sit down and journal about it before it evaporates, and then drink my coffee and then go hit the trails. But it's usually within the first hour that I'm up and out.
Good deal.
Next question. If you had to wear a hat every day for the rest of your life, what kind of hat would you choose to wear?
Oh man, I don't know the proper name, but the 50s gangster type hat or the hats that they wore during the Zoot Suit era. It would absolutely be, I'd have an array of colors of those types of hats. With feathers, with big long feathers in them.
I think that's a lost art. When you see old pictures or videos, every guy had a hat on.
Yes.
We should bring back hats right here on Construction Disruption.
That could be a fun little twist to surprise each other with a different hat every episode.
Okay, next to last question. I think this is me again. If you could only eat one type of dessert for the rest of your life, what type of dessert would you eat?
Oh man, that's a hard question. What type of dessert would I eat? So my mom makes these, I don't even know the appropriate name, but they're like lemon orange meringue type cookies. I don't know. Oh, yeah, they're dangerous. And by dangerous, I mean, it doesn't matter how big the batch she makes that for me to bring home, they will almost all be gone before I get to my driveway. I'll just pop them down on the way home. They're so good.
Good deal.
Final question. What is your least favorite vegetable? Maybe something you just absolutely refuse to eat with resilience.
I like that. Let's see. My least favorite vegetable, man, what's that stuff? Wasabi? Does that count as a vegetable?
I don't know.
It might be made from a vegetable. Yeah, I think that would probably work.
Radishes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. No good.
So the thing I have found, if you roast radishes, they actually take on a sweet taste. They're pretty amazing. Yeah, if you roast them, I like to roast radishes, and I think I put them with carrots usually, if I remember right.
Okay.
Slice them real thin, and they actually, they caramelize, and the sweetness. Anyway, I'm way off topic here. They are good, though. I don't like them raw, though. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Well, Jesse, this has been great. This has been inspirational and a heck of a lot of fun, too. So if folks want to get in touch with you or see what you're up to, what are the ways they can most easily do that?
Yeah, the two easiest ways. One is you can go to the website, DepthBuilder.com. You can find all the stuff that I have out there, which is kind of messy, but it's what it is. And LinkedIn, in terms of where I spend most of my time on social media, is LinkedIn. So if you just type Jesse DepthBuilder, you can find me, and I'm posting all the time, interacting, supporting, etc. And I'd love to connect with your folks on that venue.
Awesome. And we will put that in the show notes as well. Thank you again. What a pleasure this has been. And to let our audience know, we did all fulfill our challenge words. For Ryan, his was almost the very last word he said.
Resilience. Snuck it in right at the end.
Good job. And Jesse, your word was actually a phrase, Humpty Dumpty.
Yes, I got it.
You worked it in well.
Did a great job sneaking that in.
I don't think anyone noticed at all. And my word was chewy, which I got in there. That was more challenging than I thought it was going to be honest. And I kept thinking of one episode we had a challenge word of, was it chuggy? Is that what it was, Ryan? This word that the kids use?
Yeah, it was the word I put it out there. I think it was chuggy or something like that.
Like
I don't know.
Old people trying to look young or something like that.
Trying to be hip or cool.
That's a new one to me.
I used to think I would try to be hip and cool, but I've passed that. Well, this has been great. Thank you so much. And I want to thank our audience too for tuning into this very special episode of Construction Disruption with Jesse Hernandez of DepthBuilder. Please watch for future episodes of our podcast. We're always blessed with great guests, just like Jesse. Don't forget to leave a review. We love those. But until the next time we're together, keep on disrupting, keep on challenging, keep on looking for better ways of doing things. And most importantly, as Jesse has pointed out as well, don't forget to have a positive impact on everyone you encounter. Make them smile, encourage them, just simple yet powerful things you can do to change the world for someone. So God bless and take care. This is Isaiah Industries signing off until the next episode of Construction Disruption.
This podcast is produced by Isaiah Industries, manufacturer of specialty metal roofing and other building products.